Alright, so now I'm watching this show called Once Upon a Small Town. It's like 12 episodes, 35 minutes apiece, so let's cover episode 1. So we got this guy by the name of Han, he's like a veterinarian. So then he gets a phone call from his assistant, Mr. Lee. So he thinks it has something to do with his grandfather. His father's not picking up the phone, so he's thinking like something's wrong, he's in trouble. So they go back to the house, nobody's answering the door at the house. Pretty much the gate's locked. Then right as he's about to climb over the gate, this police officer stops him. This lady by the name of A. A's like, yeah, we got a call about some thief running around in the area or whatnot. She takes his ID and realizes that he's Han. So they thinking to herself, who's Han really? Before she can even react, another officer comes through and just slams him on the ground. I'm like, the fuck? Next thing we know, he wakes up in a veterinarian shop, but the thing is, it's not his shop, it's actually his grandfather's shop. So basically, they're in his part of town. The other vets wake him up, the other police officers wake him up, and they're like, oh my god, we're so sorry for the trouble, we're so sorry. Then he gets a call from his grandfather. Basically telling him like, sorry, I didn't mean to pull a prank on you, you know what I'm saying? I'm just taking your grandma out on a cruising around the world, you know what I'm saying, ships and whatnot. And basically he needs his son Han to man the shop for a grandson. So while one of the veterinarians is taking care of this turkey, they get a call about him having to go see a goat. So A basically gets him in the car and drives him over there. But she ends up almost hitting this one dude off the road. She makes sure he's okay. He's just staring at her like, what the fuck, yo? Apparently somebody that knows her in this small town. So they drive over and meet this guy. This guy by the name of Mr. Uso. He like runs a whole thing of chickens. He's making sure his chicken's okay, but then he gets pissed off at this dog. He's got this dog like this rat trap. So apparently the problem with this dog is he comes through and just starts eating up all these chickens. Then Han tells him like, you know this is illegal, right? I mean, we got an officer right here, you know, A, do your job. Then we find out this guy is actually A's neighbor. He's like, yeah, just because he's your neighbor, you just can't let him off the hook. Then he's basically telling like, we gotta take this dog to like social services or something like that. But then she's like, he could get killed over there. So she basically asks him to fix up the dog. But they're going to get to the dog later. First, they got to get to this goat. But they get in there, and this goat is very aggressive. So he got to do his best to calm down the goat. Needless to say, he had a lot of trouble. Afterwards, he gets back onto his grandparents' house. Then all of a sudden, these ladies come barging out of nowhere along with A. Turns out one of these ladies is actually A's aunt. They came by to make sure it was good. They gave him all types of kimchi and food and stuff like that. And they basically want to take care of him because he's a cute, handsome doctor. So after everybody dips out, he goes into this observatory, then he finds this letter. The letter is actually from his grandfather. It's basically telling us the letter that his parents had died and his grandfather wants to do something for his grandma and wanted to take her on this trip. I mean, he's been married to her for like 50 years. And he basically wants to take her around the world before she ends up passing away. You know, one of her dying wishes. So he goes back to his grandfather's veterinarian shop just walking around. And they got this river in the back. All of a sudden he sees somebody swimming in the river. I'm like, who's this? Turns out it's A. She's just like swimming around the river and then she sees Han. She's like, oh, snaps, you're here. And then they just stare at each other and that's the end of the first episode. I feel like it's going to be one of them shows where eventually Han and A ends up falling in love with each other or some shit. Seems like a decent little happy show. But Han is basically about rules, you know, law and order and whatnot. Because he came from the city of Seoul. But now they're in this small town country called Ludoni. It's basically like one of those towns where everybody helps each other. And unlike the veterinarian that he runs, this one actually runs like 24/7 whenever they need to call him or something happens. So yeah, that's pretty much his life now until his grandfather comes back. I'm gonna check out the other 12 episodes, see what's popping with it. Once Upon a Small Town on Netflix. Check it out.